Previously on The Great Game. We saw the capture of multiple cities. Most notably, seen here is the city of Titograd having been captured by the Soviet Union from Yugoslavia. Further, in North America, the Great Plains War has ramped up, with the Shawnee losing their previous city of Skotash. Hello everyone, welcome back to another wonderful, great even game. My name is Kazia. I am your lovely host for this episode and every episode at least thus far. In this episode, we shall see the Great Plains War continuing as, yes, the Shoshone have captured the Shawnee city of Chillicothe. The Shawnee are, of course, the central figures in this war, as they are the confederation that has led to the union of different native tribes and even the United States of America having declared war against them. As they remain on the defensive, we see the Prophetstown is well defended with 2 archers. Luckily, the Shoshone haven't quite approached the city yet, but it's only a matter of time before Prophetstown and later Paistan may fall. A bit of a side note here, I am very displeased with the fact we don't see much of Canada or America represented in these conflicts. They're kind of just off on their own. America is trying to at least fight the Shawnee, but Canada has maintained their distance from the natives, perhaps for good cause. Canada is led by none other than William Lyon Mackenzie King, and America is led by Theodore Roosevelt. Turning over to Europe, we see Karelia is still fending off against the Soviet Union. The Soviet Union has emerged as a real powerhouse in Europe. With the recent capture of the city of Titograd from Yugoslavia, the Soviet Union is in a great position to really get a foothold in Eastern Europe. Now, Karelia is a civilization I designed, and unfortunately, they don't get to show off one of their uniques, because it relies entirely on city-states. As a brief reminder, the Umayyads are at war with the Golden Horde, and moving over to Northern Africa, we see that Yemen is at war with Buganda. I personally think only one of these wars is really too relevant because Yemen is also fighting alongside Nigeria against Buganda. Moving on, we see Vijayanagara still at conflict with Persia, the Achaemenids under Cyrus. We should not forget, to the north we have the Afsharids under Nadir Shah, another Persian civilization. The Afsharids have been one of my favorite civilizations to watch, mainly because they're not doing good, they are doing so bad, but doing well with the misfortune they have brought upon themselves. It's really interesting to see. Portugal is defending their city of Gaia from a naval offensive by England, as well as a land offensive from Aquitaine. I am honestly enjoying seeing Aquitaine and their shenanigans with Portugal. Even though it doesn't really go anywhere, they have both grown as powers through the course of these conflicts. Honestly, this is a really interesting facet of the series, that war is also an impetus for character development for each of these civilizations. On a side note, the music you hear in the background right now is Portugal's Vanilla Peace theme, which I just love to death. It is amazing, and I even included it in the playlist for background music for ambiance in my Pathfinder campaign that I run with my friends. Now, we see Portugal defending against multiple enemies on multiple fronts, but they are doing a pretty decent job considering Gaia is the only city damaged thus far. Porto looks like it could take damage. In the north, we see that the Soviets are attacking the city of Ugarvi yet again. However, it doesn't quite seem like they'll be able to take the city immediately. They still need to do more damage to the city in order to really get it down to red health. Moving back to Central Asia, we can see that the Afsharids are fending off against the Karakitai, led by Yeludashi. Now, I don't know a lot of the history of the Western Lao, which is another name for the Karachi Kitai, but I think they're a very interesting civilization in how they're designed. They get a bonus for every capital they own, including former city-states. In Siberia, we see Mongolia still fending off against Goryeo and the Yakuts. The city of Bayankhongor is in, well, I wouldn't say grave danger, but it does look like it could take a serious offensive from Goryeo's armies. Turning over to Europe, we see Ukraine is besieging and looking to capture the city of Skopje from Yugoslavia, and I do believe they will be able to take the city this turn, using that half-health spearman right next to the city. This is a major gain for Ukraine in this very heated conflict, and this is a very decisive blow against Yugoslavia. We should also be wary that Yugoslavia has also lost the city of Titograd to the Soviet Union under Joseph Stalin. In South Asia, we see that the Mughal city of Multan is taking some damage from Bangladeshi forces. Bangladesh, of course, settled in Dhaka and Chittagong. They have the potential to make a serious territorial gain with the city of Multan settled right on their front porch. In Africa, we see Carthage and Morocco engaged in this very fruitless conflict. Although Carthage looks to have the upper hand, what is it really all for? And that's something I want to discuss. What is the motivation for all these civilizations to engage in these conflicts against one another, fighting, killing each other's soldiers over minor territorial gains, if anything? Moving on, we see that the Golden Horde is still engaged in their own fruitless conflict against the Umayyads. The Umayyads have just settled the city of Basra. So, as we come back to the Achaemenids versus the Afsharids, our very favorite Persian Civil War, although I guess this is the second Persian Civil War because they recently restarted the conflict after a continued ceasefire. So, why do civilizations fight in this game? What is the end goal? And to be honest, my perspective is that there isn't any. Sure, there is the ideal of world domination, but is that really possible? Further, why do they go to war in the first place when you could just not engage in the game? That is because I think war is generally just a solution to a problem posed by incompetence in governance or administration. We go to a world tour, and as we get glimpses of the Payong Huichum, who we haven't seen in quite a while, Haiti, who was engaged in a war that has now ended with the United States of America. Of course, speaking of war in America, we get a glimpse of the Shawnee and the Shoshone, and of course a bit of the Métis, who have expanded wide over Canada from sea to shining sea, although that's more of an American term, I guess. I don't know, what is the Canadian version of Manifest Destiny? I guess it is also just Manifest Destiny. I personally view that all these civilizations perhaps are aware that they're competing for an audience, whether it's their populace or you the viewer. They fight for your own amusement. Whether you want to take that as social commentary or not is up to you, but perhaps there was some intention behind it. And yes, I am choosing to bring up this commentary because at the time I am recording this audio, there is a lot of tension in the world, and particularly my country of origin, the United States. Moving north, we see the Haida in Skangwai having settled two more cities of Haina and Skidegate. We turn over to Taiwan to see the cities of Taipei, Peking, and Chongqing settled by, you guessed it, Taiwan, or the Republic of China. To the very far north, we see the Kanti with their capital city in Shorkar and their numerous cities alongside this big Siberian river I do not recall the name of exactly. Moving on, we see Ukraine with their newly captured city of Skopje, and in Scandinavia, we see a new colony has emerged with Portugal. I have no clue how to pronounce the city name. Leiria? Down south in Italy, Marcus Aurelius trying to do his best to lead Rome, but we see that Egypt has settled a colony in Memphis. I think this is funny as all hell, I'm not gonna lie. England is actually doing really well for itself, having settled a lot of the island of Albion. Let's move down south to see how Mali under Sundiata Keita is doing. They have a very sizable army near their core in Niani and south of Saleh. Moving on with our trek through Africa, we get a look at Ndongo Matamba led by Anna Anazinga. She has not gotten much time to shine yet, but she has gotten engaged in various different conflicts throughout the game, just nothing quite prevalent yet. We see in Malacca itself under Paramaswara is doing a very good job of expanding. I don't see this too often. Let's take a trip down under to see how Australia under John Curtin is faring. I'm not going to do that accent through this entire episode, but hey, Australia is pretty sizable. They do have to worry about the Banuba to their north. The Maori have not expanded too much, and Tonga is still Tonga, but they do have another settler on the way. So maybe the Polynesian civs won't be too bad, but we'll see. Australia, however, is the biggest competitor in Oceania thus far. Let's move on to South America to see the final scene of our world tour. Juan Manuel de Rosas' Argentina is the victim of a relentless Brazilian offensive. They have currently lost the cities of Piranha and Cordoba thus far. Having set the stage, let's look at our main lead here, the Shawnee taking a huge offensive against them from America, the Shoshone, and the Comanche. They recently lost their city of Scotash to the Comanche, though again, they do hold the Comanche city of Jupe. With that out of the way, I want to say that I don't think the Shawnee will really be able to recover from this conflict. They are at a huge disadvantage, having spent so much of their armies defending their territory, and they've already lost some of it. They've lost a major city with the fall of Chillicothe, and if the city of Prophetstown falls, that is just game over, essentially. I do not see any way they could take the city of Prophetstown back from the Shoshone. We're going over to Finland again, because we've actually spent a lot of time here. Karelia has been a major figure within these wars, simply because they've been the defensive figure of a lot of them. Karelia is currently fending off against the Soviet Union under Joseph Stalin, and the Swedes under Eric the Victorious. We've also passed the halfway marker for this episode, and I just want to say thank you so much to everyone for watching and supporting the series thus far. In spite of its many breaks or small hiatuses, it has been really important for me to continue this series and this project, and if you want to continue supporting the series, be sure to leave a like, comment, and subscribe. In the Great Steppes, we see Mongolia in Bayankhongor defending against their strong Goryeo invasion. Of course, it doesn't look that strong yet, but if you look closely, you'll see there's a lot of Goryeo forces amassing towards the city of Bayankhongor. This could be very bad for Tsakyagin Elbegdorj. Moving on to Central Asia, we see the ongoing Persian Civil War as the Achaemenids fend off against invading Ashrid forces. Yes, that is right. In my perspective, it looks like the Ashrids actually have an offensive lead here. With the city of Tarsus from the Achaemenids right on the Ashrid border, it looks like the Ashrids could really make a foothold into southern Asia and perhaps regain some lost territory. Here, for the viewers, is a closer look at the Egyptian colony of Memphis in modern Croatia. Speaking of funny colonies, let's move over to Portugal to see that Portugal is actually losing one of their founding colonies, as the city of Gaia is under a great English siege. Of course, this is not a normal siege on land, but rather it is a full naval offensive against the city walls. And it really looks like England has a serious advantage here. They could take the city at any point in time. Also, I want to highlight the English settler moving into Ireland, potentially going to create a colony over there. I also just want to say, and please do not quote me on this, Henry VIII has done a great job. England has been playing this game very smart, very wise. They have not expanded off their main island yet, but every time they do so, they're attacking vulnerable colonies, such as Prussia's colony in Scandinavia, or right now, as you can see, they're attacking Portugal's colonies in Brittany. Even though they're expanding into Ireland now, it's at a perfectly opportune moment when they do have a navy to defend it and a sizable army to help establish a great defensive core on these islands. Portugal may have vulnerable colonies, however, I do not think they will lose anything in their core like Porto just yet. We move now to the other side of Europe to see that the Soviet Union is continuing their offensive against Karelia. Karelia, of course, has been maintaining a defensive against the Soviet invasion near the city of Rugarvi. However, near Kimasharvi, their defenses are starting to wane out and fall. Meanwhile, in North America, we can see that the Comanche are pushing to retake the city of Jupe from the Shawnee. Should the city of Jupe fall, Comancheria will once again be complete and there will have been no losses for the Comanche within the war. We turn now over to Central Asia to look at a Karakitai siege of the city of Nahavand under Afsharid forces. Nahavand is one of the core Afsharid cities, and losing that city would be a tremendous blow against Nader Shah, but he's already lost quite a few cities within the various conflicts he has engaged in. Moving on, we see that in Mongolia, the city of Bayankhongor continues to defend itself against a repeated Goryeo invasion. Further, the city of Morone is defending against the forces of the Yakuts. And I'm just going to hope that I'm pronouncing the city name of Morone right. I am pretty sure it is not pronounced Moron, so I'm just going to avoid that pronunciation. If I am wrong, please feel free to correct me with sources in the comment section below. As we approach the end of this scene, you may have noticed that your humble narrator has run out of things to comment upon. Very well. Every time we turn over to Volodymyr Zelensky's Ukraine, I am just shocked at not only how much of a fun civilization they are, but how well they're doing in this game. I honestly was not expecting them to do too well, but they've surprised me. They've got some decent forces, they've made some gains here and there. Skopje, of course, being a very notable gain, and they have a good army composition. As an aside, I just like looking at Yugoslavia at this point because they're not going to win, they're not going to do well, but they have a very unique, and that's a very kind way to put it, a very unique empire. Bangladeshi forces continue their struggle around the Mughal city of Multan, although no gains have really been made thus far. Turning over to Southern Africa, we see here Lesotho in blue is fighting against Malawi in a very, very dark green. Some people mistake it for black, but it is actually slightly green. This brings me to my next subject to rant about during this episode: the colors of each civilization. A lot of them have some sort of significant meaning, or at least just look pretty. Of course, there's a trend of colors being common in certain regions. No civilization besides, I think, the Yenisei Kyrgyz actually underwent any color changes in this royale. Now, this might be some aspect of every civilization you might overlook as just being minor, and it is fairly easy to code, but choosing these colors, they actually have a lot of thought going into them. I have been modding for years, and sometimes I still struggle with finding colors that appease everyone. I am very grateful to many of the other modders or mod artists who have helped in choosing colors. For instance, Arlasqueto, or Arlasqueto, I don't know how to pronounce it exactly, has helped me numerous times selecting colors for various civilizations. There are civilizations I love the colors of. For instance, we see here the Caymanids have a beautiful bright blue color scheme matching with a nice yellow. I like the Asteroids too, though they're not too notable with just sort of a white, off-white, and an orange. The Karakitai have one of my favorite color schemes in the Royale. And Bangladesh is just marvelous. I will always point out, these are all sort of grouped together because I'm wanting to keep it sort of focused on the actual content that's happening within the game. But every single civilization had to have that sort of thought put into these minor levels of details, which I say minor. They're not exactly minor. They are a huge part of the game. Just looking at the game, you're able to recognize individually which civilization is which. And part of that comes down to just what the colors are. The Shawnee seen here in brown do have a little bit of a clash with, say, Canada up north in a very dark red, but they still look fairly distinct because, first off, the Shawnee have sort of an off greenish color in their secondary, and Canada's just looks a bit darker. As we come to the next turn, we see that the Shawnee are still fending off on all fucking sides. Let's face it, it's just everyone at this point. I don't even know if they're at war with Canada, but they're probably going to be at war with Canada soon, if not already. Also, I just want to apologize if you notice a slight difference in audio quality this episode. I'm coming back from a bit of a break, having taken a short vacation, and I think my audio settings are a little jumbled right now. With that out of the way, let's move on to Karelia. Karelia is, of course, a huge focal point for a lot of early game wars. I'm kind of curious why that is. I mean, obviously, the Soviet Union is a very domination-focused, expansive civilization, and I should have expected that. But they had other directions they could have gone. I think they chose Karelia mainly because Karelia was the weakest out of all the options posed to them. And so, you get what we have with Karelia. Similarly, that's sort of what you expect with, like, Goryeo and the Mongolians. Mongolia is not that weak, but they're weaker than the Yakuts. And they have a lot of cities, but that doesn't necessarily translate into a military strength. Not one-to-one exactly. As we come to Central Asia, first off, I do want to point out the Umayyads have made peace with the Golden Horde. That means we don't have to worry about whatever's happening over there, and we can focus on the Persian Civil War, which has been an ever-expanding conflict, as we see the Karakitai have joined in on the Achaemenid side, I guess, to invade the Asteroid forces, and of course, down south, the Achaemenids are dealing with Vijayanagara. Moving over to Europe, we see England is still pushing forward towards the city of Gaia with their naval forces. Of course, England is very renowned for their navy, and Henry VIII does have some naval uniques to them, I believe. We do not see them yet, but we do see that they have finally settled the city of Windsor in Ireland. Sort of looks like it's south of Dublin a bit, but I'm not too great with Irish geography, so please correct me if I'm wrong. Of course, Aquitaine is the main rival of Portugal, but despite that, it looks like England is going to be the one to really draw first blood in any war against Portugal. Aquitaine, however, did make a gain, taking the city of Carthago from Rome. That out of the way, Portugal is starting to at least build a defensive naval fleet, but it's very small and it stands no chance against the English forces. In North America, we see that the Shawnee are going to lose their captured city of Jupe to the Comanche. Well, not this turn, but it's gonna happen. Over in Central Asia, we see the Karakitai focusing all their arrows barraging the city of Nahavand. And will it fall? Let's see. It does. The city of Nahavand now belongs to the Karakitai under Yeludashi. Hopefully my pronunciation of Yeludashi is not too bad. But I don't know. I do not speak Old Turkic. And speaking of Old Turkic, let's move on to the city of Morone. As we move on to Mongolia, we can see that Goryeo is sort of dwindling in their invasion forces. Further, we can see that to the north, the Yakuts are moving a very fierce wall of soldiers to Morone. Moving on, we see the Mughal city of Multan is taking some serious damage from Bangladeshi forces, and Carthage is continuing to press forward towards the Moroccan city of Marrakesh. With that out of the way, I do want to also point out, Lesotho has made peace with Maravi. Wow, what a dramatic way to end that sentence. This is the penultimate scene of the episode. Oh, by the way, so before we end off the episode, I just want to thank you, everyone who has been supporting the series and watching from the very beginning. I really appreciate it. It has brought me so much pleasure and joy to make this series. If you want to see more of this series, please be sure to leave a like, comment, and subscribe down below. Despite everything, I do continue to produce episodes of this series, and I might end up missing some deadlines or whatever, but I am focusing on all that's going on in my life as well. Like I've mentioned before, I'm going back to college soon, which is very exciting for me. With that out of the way, my name is Roger Kazia, signing off. Bye-bye!